Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we chant verses 1 to 10, chapter 8, Bhagavad Gita.
Om अथाष्टमोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मम् किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञः कथं कोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथम् ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमम् स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरः विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृताम्बर अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरम् यः प्रयाति समद्भावम् याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावम् त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम् तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यम् याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन् कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम् अणोरणीयां समनुस्मरेद्यः सर्वस्य धातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्
Okay, no questions on the chat, so I assume there are no questions. We have been studying of a very important law, which is as you think, so you become. So whatever my life is at the moment, it is nothing but the result of how I have thought in the past. If I wish my life to be any different in the future, I will have to change the way I think. If I want my life to continue in exactly the way it is right now, then I need to maintain the thoughts that I am currently holding. But my life is going to be the result of what I have thought. These insubstantial thoughts will create Aditi a very substantial life. As long as these thoughts will go, some life or the other will keep on going on. Something, 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 something. And that is what is known as samsara. Samsara, most people understand as this world. Not that. Samsara is what's going on over here. Samsara is the involvement in what is going on. The same event, the same situation for different people mean very different things. Very, very different people. Very, very different lives. Very, very different joys and sorrow, in spite of the event being exactly the same. For instance, we are all going through this pandemic at the moment. This pandemic means very, very different things to different people. Very, very different things. For some people, they have made lots and lots of money. Some people have lost lots and lots of money. Some people are extremely financially unstable. Some people are financially stable. Similarly, some people at home have created a chaos. Some people at home have used this time to make the home life better. I was delighted to hear how many husbands have started taking active interest in the running of the house, which they never did before. All sorts of people to all sorts of actions like do jhadu pocha and whatnot, which you never thought of in your life. You had to think of vegetables and dals, which you never thought of in your life. So this was a time for some people to expand their horizons. This was a time for some people to reduce their horizons. Some husbands have helped the household, helped the wife in terms of running the household and created stronger bonds. Some husbands have beaten their wives up, criticized their wives, have made weaker bonds. Similarly, what wives have done, what children have done, what in laws have done. Everybody, what are you doing? Are you helping the situation or are you part of the problem? Or are you the problem? What are we? And all this is dependent upon how we think about something. So that's what he's telling us, that therefore, make sure that your thoughts are always on productive things. Make sure that's the minimum. But when you come to spirituality, the advice always is make sure your thoughts are on the higher. And if you go really into spirituality, you're deeply interested, then make sure your thoughts are on the Atman, on the self within. So that's what he's saying. Whatever you think of, you go to that. You go to that means that becomes your life, right? There's somebody who thinks of clothes all the time. So then they develop a very fine discrimination. These clothes are good, these clothes are not good. They develop for the interest. Okay, this is what bandhani kam, and this is whatever. So many different things that are each one different. This kind of weave comes from this part of the country. Very interesting, of course. But it is this different parts of our country, so full of culture, have got their own particular weaves. Paitani is very famous in Maharashtra, and I mean all over the country, from Kashmir, from everywhere. We have very, very specific things. Now, if your thoughts have been on clothes, you would know all this stuff. Your intellect takes interest in that. Your mind likes some of it, doesn't like some of it. Your actions flow in that direction, and that becomes then your life, your life's experience, and all of that. So every bit of it is made by how we are thinking. Therefore, make sure that these thoughts are productive. What are productive thoughts? At least we are not saying bad things about people, watching things that create unnecessarily problems in our minds. Just think, at least keeping it productive. Let me think of going exercising rather than eating 2 more gulab jamuns. Keep it productive. Okay, oh, you want to eat gulab jamuns? Okay, you want to eat 2? Try with 1.5. So keep it productive. All the time think which of these 2 options is the more productive one for me. This is the basic. This is like any commonsensical life. Like, which of these 2 options makes more sense for me to take? That doesn't mean you suppress suppress your mind. I don't know why it always translates in our minds as suppressing something. You don't have to suppress anything, but direct it, right? You want 2 gulab jamuns, make it 1.5. If you understand that sugar is really not a very healthy thing to eat, or have a more healthy sweet to eat if you like that, if you like sweets, keep it productive, keep it useful, keep it such that life is improved without, of course, suppressing the mind so much that you make a pressure cooker instead of inside yourself. You don't want any pressure cookers working inside. We just want to keep it as productive as my mind lets me do it. I cannot go against my mind. But with Shanti, however much I can do. Captain Pratap Mehta, you just spoke about samskara. Did I? Is it the same as sanskara? How does it connect to the way we think? What does it mean here? Samskara, did I say that word? It is another word for vasanas.
Ma'am, you said sansara.
Sansar, okay.
Okay.
Oh, संसार, you know, ये सब सांसारिक बातें हैं, ये सब संसार की बातें हैं, हमको भगवान के बारे में, थैंक यू अदिति, हमको संसार के बारे में नहीं सोचना चाहिए. So when we hear all this, we think that it is something to do with being in the world, and so everybody says spirituality means you have to get away from the world. I don't know where this concept comes that you have to get away from the world. You get away from the world and go where? When you go to the Himalayas, where are you? Have you left the world? What is it supposed to mean? Are you, if you go to the moon, have you left the world? If you go and settle down on Mars, have you left the world? You can't leave the world. It's silly. But we should leave the involvement in the world, the getting carried away with things, and how we do that is trying to first point, keeping your mind in some productive state. Okay, instead of getting up in the morning and switching the TV on, I can't understand this thing, morning television, morning newspaper, morning all this sort of thing, where this is a productive time. Use it in a productive way. By the time you reach class, it should be that half your day is almost over, because the most productive time of the day has already gone by. So, firstly, keep it productive. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is try to keep it to the higher. Once you learn how to keep it productive, otherwise you can't keep it productive, you're thinking of the higher. You can't do exercises, you're thinking Atman, ho gaya kya aise? You can't. You go step by step. And then second step, think of the higher. Third step, think of the Atman, the self within. Am I something beyond this body, beyond this mind, beyond the intellect? Am I not? Am I constricted, restricted only to these 3 things? How can that possibly be? Why should it be like that? Even if I identify with my family, I find that I can expand my identification, right? Even my own family. Their joy becomes my joy, their sorrow becomes my sorrow. Anything happens to somebody in my family, I am affected. That means my sense of I is actually spread to this. Then it can even spread to my community. Okay, whatever happens to Marwadis happens to me. Whatever happens to the Rajputs happens to me. Whatever happens to the Tamilians happens to me. Everyone can increase their identification to that. Can we not? Can we not increase our identification to our country? Even if something's happening in the Northeast, are we not concerned about it? There's nothing to, we don't never have seen Northeast, maybe we don't maybe share the same language or the same religion or the same beliefs, but they are our country. Right? So hasn't my sense of self expanded if I'm able to love my country? What about if I love all of humanity, if I can identify with humanity? What about if I can identify with all creatures on the surface of this planet? Isn't my sense of identification growing? If this be true, if it be possible to do that, then why would I say that my identification is only with this solitary body, mind, intellect? Surely this is an indication that I can spread that identification, isn't it? So then obviously the the concept of restricting only to myself is not a workable deal. So I have to be more than this body, mind, intellect. So then what am I? Am I to identify with only with all the creatures on the surface of this globe? But why would I restrict myself there? If I could increase my identification up to that, then why not further? So what about all the creatures in this universe? Ones that I have seen and not seen. I mean, seen in the sense on the planet, and not seen means maybe anyone, anywhere, anyhow. Can I not increase it? And then if you think about it, it's like, do I have to restrict to this universe? Do I have to? Can my identification not spread? And then spreading it beyond means what? What is that one thing which is common to everything? What is that one thing that makes the trees grow, the animals move, and the humans think? What is that one life force? What is that one thing that is common? And because of that, we can connect.
And living principle within us.
The
Sorry?
Brahman.
Spirit.
Sorry, that was a rhetorical question. It wasn't really a question for you all to answer. So, whatever you are able to identify with, you can understand there's something more. So, what is that thing? What is that thing? What is that thing? In the far reaches of the universe and maybe beyond. What is that thing? What is the power? What is the force? And whatever is that which is the power, the force that makes this whole thing move, would that power, that force not be within me? How can that be? It's everywhere but me. Is this not also part of that universal whole? So there must be one thing all over, right? How do I find that one thing? I can't go to the far ends of the universe. There's only one way to find it, and that is to go within myself. So that's why myself. But it's not restricted to myself. It is the self. All over. Same self, same power, same whatever it is the same thing. Between you and me and all that we have seen and all that we have not yet seen. So when my thoughts start inquiring into the very reality of things, I put my life on another pedestal. I put my life on another plane. I'm living the same life that everybody may be living. But if I think of that, then my life changes, right? And if my mind comes back to all this petty nonsense that goes on around me, then that's my life. So my life is entirely about where are my thoughts? Entirely about where are my thoughts? The same life is divine if you think of divinity, and the same life is gross if you think of something gross. From the sublime to the ridiculous, it is all to do with what we think. So that's what he was talking about in verses 5 and 6. So in verse 7, he's concluding. Therefore, what should we do? Is verse 7. Oh, what is this stinky? By identifying, am I getting involved? Is it the same as empathizing? No, Tinky, by identifying, you don't get involved. You get involved because the intellect is the definition of involvement. Always go back to definitions. What is definition of involvement? Involvement means when the mind does something without the governance or awareness of the intellect. This is involvement. Involvement means the mind is doing something without the presence of the intellect. This is involvement. Now, by identifying, you're not getting involved. This is a separate thing. That is a separate thing. What is identifying? Definition of identifying is feeling exactly the way the other person feels, feeling one with something. So these are two different concepts. You can have identification and be involved. You can have identification and not be involved. You can be involved and not have identification. You can be involved and have identification. They're different concepts. At various times in life, they will coincide or not. Okay, so
Thank you.
let's do verse 7. Okay, before we start verse 7, I understand now that there seem to be very many new people in the class. So everybody who's new in the class, could you please put on your videos so that I know that there are new people? Otherwise, it becomes a little difficult, and then it is, I'm talking as if I'm talking to the class, but I would like that you all should know what is going on. So everybody who's new, could you all please put on your videos so that I can see you and know. And if you have any issues, thank you. If you have any issues, something is not clear, because it's an ongoing class, so I'm assuming many things are known which may not be known, in which case please stop me and ask. This is a class where you are expected to listen and understand, and if you listen but don't understand, then you have to figure out, then you have to stop me and say, I don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, is there anything that I've currently said which has not been comprehensible to anyone who is new because it was based on something that was said earlier? Is anyone got anything? In which case, please ask. We are all good? Okay. So the point that was there today was that our life is the consequence of the way we think. If we want the same life, we think the same way. If we want a better life, then we have to think differently. Okay, and the other request is, can you please put your name down, because iPhone says you can't put on your video, that's fine, but can you make your name so I know who this is? Remember, this is a direct connection between you and me. It's not like I am just talking in the air and everybody is just doing whatever, eating their lunch and dinner while this is going on. So who is KKS? Who's KKS? Okay, I can see KKS, that's fine. Okay, who's iPhone? So basically the idea is, please stop me if I have been uncharitable enough to not make myself clear about the point. Okay. Okay, Sudha. All right. So just ask if anything is not clear. That's the only point I was making. So let's go to verse 7. He has told us your life is going to be the result of your thoughts. So if you think of me, you will reach me. That's what he has told us so far. So in verse 7, he's concluding. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpitamano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayaha. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpitamano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayaha. Tasmat. Tasmat is a word you will often find in Vedanta. Tasmat means therefore. So he's told us this, and now he's concluding the idea. He said, whatever you think of, you will go to me. Therefore, you should be thinking of me. If you do think of me, you will be coming to me. Therefore, what should you do? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times. Okay, so for all the people who are new, if you're wondering why we are doing this in Sanskrit, is because the original text is in Sanskrit, and it is a debt we pay to the original text that we at least, now nobody speaks the poor language, so a debt to our text is we at least read the original. And when the original is in front of you, you know that nobody is just saying whatever comes to their mind. They're actually saying what the text is saying. So that's why you have it in front of you. And if you all are not sure why we say the prayer in the beginning is because we have come from all sorts of places and all, and that is a way to tune ourselves into this subject and these thoughts. Because as you can imagine, when we're in the world, there's multifarious thoughts going on, and all that just goes on and on and on. And you have to actually put a full stop to every such thought if you want to learn Vedanta. So you do so slowly as you chant the prayer each time before your class, your mind gets used to switching off from all the other things and focusing on what we are doing now. That's what the prayer is for. And what does this prayer mean? There is a YouTube video on the prayer. It's called Om Sahana Bhavatu. Om Sahana Bhavatu. So if you go to the YouTube channel, Team Janki Santo, then you will see the meaning of the prayer. I mean, the prayer is explained. So you can listen to that. And so you're, sort of at par now with everybody who already knows all this stuff. So coming back to verse 7, Tasmat, therefore, Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times, Ma Manusmara, remember me, Yudhyacha. Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. What a beautiful construct. Remember me and fight. This is the trick of the spiritual path. It is also the trick of a successful life. There are three things. The greatest, the most wonderful and fascinating thing about the spiritual path is, in most other places, you are always told that, you have to choose between your material life and your spiritual life. Now, the great part of being in Vedanta is that there's no such choice given to us, because the laws are the same for both. Whether you want a material achievement or you want a spiritual achievement, what you have to do is exactly the same. There's no difference, because all achievement comes out of some basic laws. And once you get those laws, it's a matter of where are you directing those laws. That's all it's a matter of. Madhulika, can you switch your video off, please? I would recommend that people who are in the class put your attention on the class. This is not the time to peel lasun or to attend to other things. It's a difficult subject. If you can't put your thoughts entirely on Vedanta while the class is on, how do we expect to keep our thoughts on the higher when we are doing something else? At least 1 hour in the week, nothing else. No, now I'll listen to the class and I will also wash the dishes and I will also do this and I will also do that. No, this is not the way to learn. Okay. It's okay, it's okay. It's not about saying sorry to me, please. I am not a thing. The thing is that if you want to learn something, you have to be 100% there. Nowadays, we have this whole multitasking concept. We can't learn like that. It's not only to you, it's to the whole class. I don't see what other people are doing. So I have no idea whether you're all paying attention or you all have gone somewhere chatting with your family while this is on. I have no idea. But if you are doing that, you are just wasting your own time, because you will neither do this properly nor that properly. At any point, choose to do only one thing. And while you do that one thing, your whole life is that one thing. And if you can train your mind into this is Vedanta. At any moment, your life is only one thing. That's it. And I'm not making this up because unfortunately we're on the verse that says so. So we'll come there. So he's given us 3 points on how to be successful at anything. You want to be successful in your Vedanta studies. You want to be successful in your business. You want to be successful in anything. Here are the 3 things that you have to do. Firstly, it starts with Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times. Yeah, so all times means you can't just once in a while get up and do something and expect to get results. It doesn't work like that. Sarveshu Kaleshu, Ma Manusmara. Remember me, Yudhyacha, and fight. So, Mayarpita Mano Buddhi. You do arpit. Arpit means you give. You give the Lord what? You give the Lord Mano Buddhi, the mind and intellect. We go about giving the Lord, I don't know, thousands of rupees and big temples and donations and whatnot and the other. He's not asked for all that. Please remember, when you give the Lord anything, when you give the Lord money, for instance, you go and give, say, in Siddhi Vinayak's name, I'm putting 5 lakhs. Suppose you say that. Please ask yourself, whose 5 lakhs are they? Do you realize that if he wants, he can take your 5 lakhs from you any moment? Not only the 5 lakhs, but the entire corpus that you have. Whose money are you giving the Lord? Oh no, I give a flower. Whose flower are you giving the Lord? You realize it's already his. It is so silly, this whole concept. So what is it that he's asking you to do? Mayarpita. What do you do arpit of? Maya, to me, what I'm in me, my arpita, what? Mano buddhi, your own thoughts. That's what he's already told you, right? Keep your thoughts on me. How do you do that? With your feelings and with your thinking. So with your feelings, feel for the Lord. With your intellect, discriminate on the Lord. How do you feel for the Lord? You feel that that is my final destination. That is where I have to get right. That's your feeling towards the Lord. And your buddhi can constantly discriminate between what is permanent and what is passing. What are those actions and things that take me to the Lord, to the reality? And what are those actions and things that take me away? Making that discrimination all the time. So that's what it means to give your mind and intellect to Him. Mayeva, Mai eva, Mayeva, Mam eva, Mam eva, Eshyasi, Asamshaya. Asamshaya, Na samshaya. It is the opposite. It's a samas. Wherever you want to make something opposite, you say a. So asamshaya means na samshaya. There is no samshaya about this. If so, what is there no samshaya about? There's no doubt about. There's no doubt about the method of achievement. So what is the method He's given us? He's given us a 3-fold method. Number 1, remember me. Number 2, Yudhyacha, fight. And number 3, stay consistent with this. Not one day you get up and you start thinking and something is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. So, very, very carefully to understand that. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha. So let's see this. This works for spiritual, this works for material. If you want a material goal, you want to make more money, you want a proper relationship, you want health, you want, I don't know, whatever else you want in this world. Okay, so what would you do at all times? Think of that thing, whatever it is you want. Yudhyacha. Yudhyacha means thinking and thinking, lying in bed and thinking. No, that doesn't work. Yudhyacha means go fight. Otherwise, this a friend of ours, Arjuna, will say, okay, I'll think of you, Krishna. Let's go home. No, 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 no. That doesn't work. I'm sorry. Think of me and fight. Play your part. That's your responsibility. You fight. I'm not going to fight for you, says the Lord. You fight. Think of me and fight. This is the method for achieving any goal. Think of your goal, act for your goal, and do this consistently. Hari says, is this objectivity? Is this objectivity? Yes, it's objectivity. Okay, let's define objectivity. Objectivity is nothing but your intellect being in charge of the action. This is objectivity. Intellect is in charge of the action is objectivity. Intellect not in charge of the action is called Falguni. It's called
Involvement.
Bharat, your name is not Falguni. What is this? You are advocating for her. What happened? You all have become best friends, is it now? Falguni, yes, correct, Bharat. But Bharat, now you've been around too long. You're not allowed to answer anymore. Your answering rights have been withdrawn. So, okay, so correct. Bharat is always correct, so no point asking him to answer any question. So, what is objectivity? Intellect in charge of action. What is involvement? What is involvement?
Opposite.
Lack of governance of intellect on mind.
Yes, mind is in charge of action. Action, remember, in Vedanta, action is a very important thing. Everybody forgets that bit. Action. Where has this action come from? Has it come from the mind or the intellect? One is involvement, one is objectivity. It's not objectivity. Most people think, okay, I'm standing back and watching everything. No, that is part of it. Your intellect has to watch everything, correct, and then it has to make the body do whatever it has understood. That is all part of objectivity. Otherwise, okay, we are all very objective. We don't do anything. That's not what it's referring to. So therefore, yuddhacha, fight. Now, don't stand there and say how objective you are. Have you done what you need to do? There is no getting away from that. Have you done what you need to do? And when we ask ourselves that one question, that's where the problems of life come. We're not doing that one. Are we doing what we need to do? Because if we were, we definitely get what we were trying to get. So, 3 steps. Number one.
Think about
Remember the goal.
think about
Remember me.
Think about the goal or think about the self, because this works for whether you are doing it for a material thing or whether you're doing it for a spiritual thing. So think about the self or think about your goal. Step number 2.
action.
Fight.
You have to fight.
Doing the right action. Very good. And step number 3.
Consistency.
And consistency. Keep doing it. Shraddha.
Keep doing it. Very good. Otherwise, we do one action, we say, kuch nahi hua. Arey, kaise hoga? And keep doing. Now, what is the way? Mayarpita mano buddhihi. Mayarpita mano buddhihi. Meaning what? At any time, you are doing that one thing. Your mind is in it and your intellect is in it. And if you're not doing it that way, then your action is going to suffer. You know, people don't even listen to what they are being told. Suppose if ever I give instructions, do X or Y, okay, you may not even agree with my instruction, in which case, of course, you say, no, I won't do it, that's fine. But 9 out of 10 times, people don't know that they're supposed to do this because just not available. Concentration has come to an abysmal low in today's society. Abysmal. Whether you're dealing with your bank's relationship manager or you're dealing with just about anybody, they have no idea what you just said because half their attention is on something else. And then they talk about being service, dil se or something. You are like family to us. Sorry, but forget about making me your family. Can you just be a good bank first? Never mind about making me part of your family. I already have a family. Thank you. I've come to you for a bank. So please do that properly. So concentration is at abysmal low levels because what happened here? Omkar, can you remove this now? All this stuff has gone away somehow. Okay, here it is back. Oh, Kumar, where's Kumar? Kumar. About doing one thing at a time. Often it is said that it's good to chant the name of God while doing normal worldly tasks. Is it a good practice? Is it good to do the task at hand with full attention, or should the chanting go along with the task? Kumar, it's all a matter of what kind of task you're performing. Suppose you're doing something like ironing your clothes. Now, that may not be involving your entire mental concentration, right? So, okay, you can maybe put on bhajans while you're doing that, or you're driving. You can maybe put on some music in the background. So, okay, that is all right. But during class, where your entire attention has to be there, or during a conversation, this silly notion of having music while you're having a conversation, it is insulting to the performer and it is a foolish notion. So somebody's singing on stage, it's a live performance and people are talking. And they do that in restaurants and all sorts of things. It's so insulting. What that person has put in to be able to do that, and then this is how you treat it. It's very insulting. So where your mind has to be completely involved, you're sitting and talking to your wife, then you should be talking to your wife and she is the only thing that exists in the world. If you are doing some of your office work, then your mind has to be there. There's nothing else. Nothing else exists. That is that famous story which you must have heard about Arjuna. Are you familiar? Please nod if you all are familiar with Arjuna's story about the bird.
Yes.
Yes, Janki ji.
Okay. Falguni, are you aware?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Is it where he shoots? Yeah, I'll wait too.
Okay. So yes, because I think you don't live in India, isn't it? So people
Yeah,
who are
but
listening
yeah.
from abroad would probably not know the story. The story goes that Dronacharya took the Kaurava and Pandava princes for archery. It was their test day. So he told all the brothers that I want you to shoot the eye of that bird. He had kept a fake bird there and they had to shoot the eye. And the story goes that when Yudhishthira being the eldest, he came first and he drew his bow and Dronacharya asked him, what can you see? He said, I can see the bird. He said, thank you, Yudhishthira, you need not go any further. Then Bhima came, and he's the second brother. And so Dronacharya said, what do you see? So Bhima said, I can see the bird, I can see the mountains, I can see the sky, I can see the tree, I can see. Oh. So Dronacharya said, hey Baba, kafi ho gaya. You need not even try. And Arjuna comes and says, and he asks Arjuna, what can you see? He says, I can see the eye of the bird. You can see nothing else. So all children in this country are taught this story because when you're doing something, you can only see the eye of the bird. You can't see anything else. You know why husbands and wives fight so much? How much quarreling goes on in the family? Because nobody's listening. You listen to 10%, guess about the other 90%, jump to own conclusions, make your own assumptions, and then massive fight. When somebody says something that you don't agree, can you not even ask, what did you mean by saying that? and then fight. I'm not against fighting. Please go ahead and fight. There's no entertainment nowadays but fighting with your spouse. So please fight. No problem as far as that is concerned. But at least find out what is it you said. Then we'll fight. No problem. We'll fight. But what is it you said? In traditional Indian society, I don't know if you all are familiar with this thing that there was this Khandan Manan. Have you all heard of Khandan Manan? Which is public discussions, such as we have on television nowadays. It's an insult to those to call it that. But as there are now, all these people come along and give whatever views they have, and then they argue their views within themselves. This Khandan Manan was actually very, very prevalent in Indian society at one point. And in fact, Shankaracharya, you must be knowing this, re-established Vedanta through this method. So they used to have these discussions. Now, the thing about discussion is that the two people who are going to be discussing any point have to have already deeply studied the other person's view on it before you come there. That means, suppose I am going to talk on Advaita Vedanta and you're going to talk on Dvaita. I have no right to speak to you unless I have already studied Dvaita thoroughly. Like I have done totally. Not 1 day, 2 days. I have studied it thoroughly. I know all the arguments that you're likely to place. It should not be that I come to that discussion without knowing your arguments on this. So, this is the way discussion was held. That means I already know your views on this matter. And you already know my views on this matter. And now we are going to discuss. Can you imagine the quality of those discussions? Not like this, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm going to fight with you about it. No, what happened? What are you fighting with? Which point are you disagreeing with? That also I have no idea. So this method of doing things comes because
Lack of intellect.
Because you have
this method of doing it like this comes because of doing it the right way, comes because of
using your intellect.
Developed intellect.
Because you have learned to pay attention. Intellect is right, but remember what point we are on at the moment. We are talking about concentration. Okay, so when you have learned to listen, to pay attention, today's your group discussion, right? Great day to be talking about this. Please don't create any confusion. You're all going to, yes, that's correct, listening. You've learned to listen, fully listen. When you're listening, you're not thinking of what you're going to reply. You're just listening. You're just hearing what is being said. And that is preliminary before thinking. So, Mayyar Pita Mano Buddhi. I hope you all are still with me. I haven't left the verse, okay? I'm still on the verse. Mayyar Pita Mano Buddhi. The mind feels what the intellect thinks, and the intellect thinks what the mind feels, and it's all there at one place. There is no other place for this to be. This capacity in us will help us reach wherever we want to go, whether it's material or whether it is physical. It's spiritual. So he says, at all times, remember me and fight. Now, this is interesting. Mam Anusmara Yuddhacha. Mam Anusmara means me remember. These are the two stages of the spiritual path. In the earlier stage of the path, you do act and remember him. In the latter stage, you remember him and then you act. So, when you remember him and act, that is the stage of meditation. When you act and remember him, that is the stage of Karma Yoga. Dr. Srila Das Gupta, sometimes when you listen intently, lot of questions arise at the same time. Is that okay? Yes, of course it is okay. It is a basic human right and a human duty to question. But it is as much of a right and as much of a duty to pay attention to your own questions, to your own feelings, to your own thoughts, to your own feelings, 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 to your o and think them through before you actually ask somebody else. You think them through, apply yourself, listen to what is being said, understand the usage of those words, because each person uses words in a particular way. When you come to some subjects, each word is defined, so find out what those definitions are, understand what that thing is being said. Once you've understood the concept, then you must question the concept. Or if you feel I just don't understand, like for instance, why is objectivity so important? Then you start, what is objectivity? Have I understood what the speaker meant by this term? So then I can do further questioning. But first I have to hear to understand, and then come to, okay, whether I understand this or I don't, or I question it, or whatever it is. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Most of the time we're eager to convince the other. In that process we fail to listen. Yes, wherever, if your attention is not on what you're doing, just doing one thing, then you have no problem. If you're just listening, all the negative attitudes of listening will go away, because all you're doing is listening, so there's no place for negative attitudes there at all. So as long as you are listening, you as long as you are listening, you're only listening, then no problem. But the moment there's one other thing, there's a problem. So it's Advaita all the way. Keep it to one thing, just one thing. Okay, is that clear? Is this verse clear? So he said, therefore, what should you do? He said, your life will be the result of how you think. Therefore, if you do think of me, you will reach me. Therefore, what should you do? Think of me and act, and do this consistently. Let your mind feel what your intellect thinks, and let your intellect think what your mind feels. So that means your intellect channelizes your actions towards the higher. Your mind wants the higher. If your mind doesn't want the higher, this is a no-go. This is a non-starter. So the mind must want the higher, and the intellect must choose the actions that take you there. Okay, Ajay Vaswani, request if you could elaborate on act and remember him, and remember him and act. Okay, Ajay, that is just about the beginning portions and the latter portions of the spiritual path. In the beginning portion, we are doing what we are doing, and we are going to remember him. Okay, we train ourselves to do that. But in the latter portion, we are not doing what we are doing. We are remembering him, and we are only going to do what takes us to him. In chapter 12, we will be speaking about this a little more, about how in the early stages of the journey, our likes and dislikes are very strong. We want to do things. Actually, we're doing that in chapter 12 also, if you remember. The Tyagi wants to do something. So you can't stop him from doing that. He wants to do it. But the sannyasi doesn't work like that. He does whatever is going to take him to Atman. But for us who are in the earlier stages of the path, we are doing what we are doing, Baba. Nobody can stop us from doing these things. So we superimpose. Superimpose means we do whatever we are doing, but do it as an offering to him. In the latter stages of the journey, he is the bigger picture, because the desires, the likes and dislikes have reduced. So now you're doing just what takes you there. Is that clear, Ajay?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the explanation. Thank you.
Hariom Janki, I have a question. Can I ask?
Go ahead, Ganesh.
Yes. So we spoke about in the earlier part that lifestyle may affect spiritual progress, like the friends you are with, the music you listen to, the movies. But in the earlier parts, we spoke like gross doesn't affect the subtle. So does your lifestyle affect your spiritual progress? And is it possible for us to have in this modern world? Because we might be in various aspects, right? So I just wanted to throw some light on this.
Go back to definitions, Ganesh. Gross does not affect the subtle, means the body does not affect the mind, and the mind does not affect the intellect. Okay, that's gross does not affect the subtle, means that physical objects cannot have any impact on your mind. Okay, that's what it means. Now, what does it mean that in the earlier stages of the journey, you have to keep the things around you okay? Because your mind is interested in them as it is. It's not that those thoughts are affecting your mind. It's not that those objects are affecting your mind. The mind is at that stage at the moment. Since it is at that stage at that moment, you better keep it to a proper environment. Later on, when a person grows up, these objects don't matter. Doesn't matter where he is. I don't know if it's of course well before your time, Ganesh, but there was this movie called Do Aankhe Bara Haath. Have you seen it, heard of it?
No, Janki.
No. I don't know today's movies, so I'm really handicapped with this. There was this lovely movie. It was based on a somewhat true story, I understand, which is that there was a jailer and he had 6 convicts with him. I think it was 6 Barahat, right? So 6 convicts, and they're hardened criminals, and he takes them away on an experiment, and he lives with them. You know, just that the jailer and these 6 convicts, and they're sort of free. They're out of jail, but they're hardened criminals, and he has taken the responsibility of rehabilitating them. Now he lives with these criminals and lives with them and lives with them, and it's a nice story. So eventually he is able to convert these 6 hardened criminals into people of caliber and character. Okay. This much is clear, right, Ganesh?
Yes, absolutely.
Suppose you and I go and live with hardened criminals, what will happen to us? Suppose we were exposed to that kind of life, behavior, thoughts.
We too will
We will become like them.
We may become like them. So in the initial stages, don't go there. But when you become a person of caliber, it doesn't matter where you go.
Okay, Ji. Understood. Thank you so much.
So in terms of gross cannot expect means the hardened criminals cannot affect the subtle developed person because his mind is now subtle. But when you have grosser desires and you are in the presence of grosser objects, those objects will attract those desires. What is the name of the movie? Do Aankhe, you should know it. Do Aankhe Bara Haath, V. Shantaram movie. Very, very old movie. Okay, it's on YouTube. Okay. So, is verse 7 clear? Have we finished everything? So, what he's telling us also in this verse is that the spiritual path cannot be taken as a part-time entertainment. Why can't it be taken as a part-time entertainment?
Because you need to have consistency, Shraddha, go on and on and on till you achieve your goal.
Because no achievement can be part-time. Do you think that Bill Gates reached where he is because he did his job part-time? Part-time doesn't take us anywhere. Whatever you're doing is full-time, full heart, full intellect. That has to be well established. Bharat, announcement. Yes, Bharat. Okay, so that's it for the class. Our good friend Bharat will make an announcement. Please go ahead, Bharat.
Hari Om, everyone. This coming Saturday, we will have a meeting for Yagna, which is the biggest event of the year for us and for all of us. So we will have the meeting 6 to 7. The details will be announced on the group. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat. I hope Everybody will come for the yagna. Yagna, you didn't tell them what is yagna. Please remember, new people have joined us. Yagna is a Bhagavad Gita lecture series. It's done 4 or 5 or 6 days continuous, and this is the big event of the year. And it is done by Sushila ji, who is a senior disciple of Swamiji. And we do this annually, and we should all get together. It's called Yagna because it's the spirit of cooperative endeavor. It's called a Jnana Yagna. Jnana Yagna. Yagna means Havan, and Jnana Yagna means where the Ahuti is ignorance and the kindling is Jnana. So we call it Jnana Yagna, and Yagna for short. And it's also Yagna because we all get together and do it. So do come for the meeting, and let's see what ideas or whatever you all have to share. Okay?
Hariom Janki, one more minute.
One more minute. Asha, go ahead, Ganesh.
Yes. So this evening from 7 to 8, we would have the group discussion. So my number is, I'll put it on the chat. This would be from 7 to 8. If those of you are not part of that WhatsApp group, please give me a text and I will send the Zoom link. So from 7 to 8, we will have the discussion, and we will break out into groups during the discussion itself. So Hariom, thank you.
Hariom.
Thank you, Hariom Janki ji.
Thank you, Janki ji.
Hariom Janki ji.
Thank you, Hariom. Thank you, Janki.